So they do all their tests. They finally said, oh yeah, okay, so it possibly is the vaccine, you've got pericarditis. Monitored me for about 24 hours and then said, oh, you can just go home now, but make sure you get your second shot. And I, in absolute disbelief, applied for another exemption, and I was told, no, Ashley Bloomfield has looked at your case and you need to get a second vaccine. I was like, that little Nazi can go bite me. What kind of psychopath pushes someone who's been sick from one medication to go and get a second one? It's hard with the ones that don't want to know, especially the ones that look at me like I'm mental. Once the whole COVID thing kind of hit, I was slightly suspicious because they were just trying to instill fear into everyone. And there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to confirm all the data that, you know, and they were talking about how the hospitals are full and all this kind of thing. And so I was quite suspicious. I was like, there's something not right about this. Yeah, it took a while for New Zealand to get the vaccine and it finally did, and then they just started pushing it really, really hard, which made me even more suspicious. But there was 2 members of my wider family that had cancer. And so I was the weak link because I didn't want to get vaccinated. So the rest of my family went and got vaccinated, bar my youngest son because he was under the age of 12 at the time. And after 5 more days of what I would call quite a bit of pressure, sort of unsaid pressure, I went and got vaccinated, and then I think it was 5 days, I started sort of getting a big knot in my back, which travelled up like to the point where I was just in extreme pain. And then it came into my chest. Like it started at about 7 o'clock. I went to bed thinking, oh, I'll sleep it off, you know, typical Kiwi bloke. And at 1 o'clock, I was just in such extreme pain. I said to my wife, I'm driving myself to the hospital now. Yeah, got to hospital, plugged me into everything under the sun. And they said, oh, what's different? You know, have you done anything different? I said, yeah, the only thing that's happened, mate, is I've had the vaccine. And I was told it won't be the vaccine. I'm like, it is the only thing that is different in my life. Don't tell me it's not the vaccine. And so they do all their tests, and anyway, they finally said, oh yeah, okay, so it possibly is the vaccine, you've got pericarditis. That was the most extremely painful thing I've experienced. I've broken, I don't know, both my arms, both my collarbones, my hands. They hurt, and I get gout. That is extremely painful. And pericarditis just left that all for dead. It was so incredibly painful. They sort of monitored me for about 24 hours and then said, oh, you can just go home now, but make sure you get your second shot. And I, in absolute disbelief, I looked at the doctor and said, are you freaking kidding me? And he goes, oh, COVID's way worse. Now, if that's the caliber of our doctors, like seriously, we're in big, big trouble. So, walked out to my car and jumped in, just Tourette'ing all the way home at the stupidity of the doctor. Because if that's the advice he's giving others, that's a death sentence. I was not told to not do any exercise for 3 months. I had to research that myself because of that inflammation, you can actually, pop your clogs. I couldn't do lots of the stuff that I normally do. Very keen hunter. So, yeah, no walking in the hills, no nothing. The last thing you want to do is have a heart attack in the hills when you're miles away from anyone or anything. Look, at the end of the day, that's not that big a deal. Like I said, I've broken plenty of bones where you couldn't do anything for 6 weeks, so it's just part of being alive. But, yeah, the vaccine was not something that I would have chosen to take without the extreme pressure that was put on everyone. I just went to a local pharmacy that's still advertising the COVID vaccine, and I don't remember them telling me about the risks. I'm 99% sure they didn't mention pericarditis or myocarditis. I think they probably just said there are some risks associated with vaccines, as there are with all vaccines. When, oh yeah, okay, whatever. I think, yeah, had to tick some boxes and sign it, and just sort of did the whole get on with it, not having any idea about any of the risks involved, really. And at that point in my life, I trusted drug companies and doctors and thought they wouldn't do anything en masse that was really risky. I'm definitely not that naive or ignorant anymore. But yeah, so now, I don't really trust any of the drugs or drug companies. I'm not saying they're all bad, but man, do I do my research before I'm not on any pills or anything now, but yeah, I would be very, very hesitant to trust anything now. Most doctors just went along with it. I've found a new GP that I do trust, and I sure as hell don't trust the government. Blue or red, everyone in government knew, the medical profession knew, and they chose to continue to push something. So why? And when you ask that question, there's all kinds of answers. Most of them come back to money and power, and that frightens the hell out of me. I keep my vaccine card in here so that I can bring it out and spit on it every now and again. So I was vaccinated on the 5th of the 9th, 2021. That's the card of death. And that shows when I got vaccinated and the batch number, etc., etc. Don't even know why I hang on to it, except for the reasons I've explained, but I have lost friends to the vaccine, so it is a card of death, and it's definitely been a death sentence for some. We spent a lot of money doing a lot of the more alternative treatments. That was a tough 2 years, but it definitely left us quite financially stretched. But we were listening to people like Peter McCulloch and all that, and other medical practitioners that I've come to know who said this is something that we know is really, really effective, but private health insurance or ACC wouldn't cover any of that, so we just had to dig deep. And I was concerned that I could end up having a heart attack because all of this is so unknown. I had pericarditis, but what else? Once I'd come out of hospital and didn't really do any exercise for several months, I felt by and large okay, but there was still a whole heap of unknowns. So I thought I have to be careful, and if there's treatments that can help, then hey, I'll grab them with both hands and run with them. I did go hunting about 8 months after, and I did really struggle. I had very little strength, and I got absolutely knackered. Previously I could walk 15 to 20 k's in a day, uphill, downhill, carrying a 40 kilo deer on my back, and I'd be tired, but I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even lift a deer off the ground.
Does that mean you're eligible for ACC?
I don't want anything from the government. They put me in this position, and what are they going to do? Give me some money to help me? I haven't suffered financially. I was off work for probably about a week. I don't think they would pay for anything unless it was through the health system. Well, I don't trust any of the garbage that you want to peddle my way, thanks. So, from now on I choose my own medical treatment, and I'll do my own research, and it'll be people that I trust, not the doctors who went along pushing it, like my GP at the time, who after my vaccine injury told me, make sure you get your kids vaccinated a second time so that they can have a normal Christmas. And it was with absolute disbelief that, why would you say that? So needless to say, she's not my GP anymore. And I know, because we've got other friends who use her as a GP, that she has had other people come in with vaccine injuries. Well, is it the mass psychosis they call it? And these are people who are supposed to be really intelligent. Well, they lack any kind of discernment or wisdom as far as I'm concerned. So I got my vaccine on the 5th of the 9th, 2021, and it was 5 days after that I got sick, and I thought, man, I definitely need to get an exemption. I'd heard that, so my GP at the time, she said, I'll see if I can get you an exemption, which she did, and I thought, oh cool, I'm away scot-free, I don't have to get another vaccine, because from the research that I'd done, there's a very high chance that it'd kill me if I got a second one. Like, my body obviously didn't like it at all, as lots of other people's bodies didn't. I got the exemption, and then I got a letter in the mail saying your exemption's running out. You need to go and get your second vaccine. And I thought, are you freaking kidding me? So I rang the Ministry of Health and applied for another exemption, and I was told, no, Ashley Bloomfield has looked at your case and you need to get a second vaccine. I was like, that little Nazi can go bite me. There is no way in hell. So I laughed at the person on the phone and just thought, you're an idiot. And I thought, well, I'm just going to have to survive not being allowed into here, there and everywhere, and I just don't care. Like, what kind of psychopath pushes someone who's been sick from one medication to go and get a second one? As far as I was concerned, he was a psychopath. My wife and I decided at that point that because my son had also got a vaccine injury, that we were not going to get a second one. And we realised that we just had to be on the out of society. And I was quite comfortable with that. Well, you know, you go in to get a takeaway and they're like, sorry, can't serve you. And there was one local cafe where I was standing outside and they had a little window and I wanted to order a coffee, and they said, you know, are you vaccinated? And I said, no, because you had to be double vaccinated. And she said, I can't serve you a coffee. And I said, I'm standing outside. And she goes, I'm not going to serve you. And the guy behind me said, don't worry, mate, I'll get you a coffee. I said, thank you very much. And I said to her, I will never, ever come back here again. And that was, what, three years ago? And I've never been back, and I never will. Maybe that's stubborn or belligerent or whatever, but I'm kind of like, no, you guys are just horrible people. And I mean, they went over and above and beyond the stupid rules. I was sick of wearing a mask, done my homework on that, and wearing a mask, it didn't matter what it was, the N95s or whatever. Virus particles are super minute, and those masks are for bacteria. So wearing a mask was like standing in a shower with a tennis racket over your head thinking the tennis racket's going to keep you dry. Masks were completely ineffective. With my son, we knew what had happened with my vaccine injury. Like, it started in my back and then sort of crept up through my shoulder and then into my chest. And it was probably about 6 weeks after he had his vaccine injury, and we kind of thought, after I'd had mine, because mine came on so quick, we kind of thought, okay, so I think we're in the clear for the rest of us. And then one night, my son was sitting at his desk doing his homework, and he goes, oh, I've got this real sore back. And I'm like, oh, really? Whereabouts? And he said, oh, just between my shoulder blades. I said, you tell me if that moves. And 2 hours later, he's like, yeah, it's creeping up into my shoulder. And I was like, you're freaking kidding me. I said, get in the car, we're going to hospital now. But yeah, this doctor, I very soon realised that he hadn't fallen for the bollocks either. He was just like, yeah, it's super dangerous. And he did a whole lot of tests on my son. And he said, look, we don't know what it is, but there is definitely something very wrong here. But he said, this technology is so new, and the damage that's been done is something that we can't even diagnose because we don't even know what we're looking for. And he did a D-dimer to see if it was a blood clot, and he said, no, it's not that. And he did all kinds of other tests, and he said, I'd suggest going to a cardiologist. And I said to him, oh, how have you got this far without, you know, being vaccinated? He said, mate, I'm vaccinated up the wazoo. He said, I'm just really lucky. And I know for a fact that he wasn't that lucky. They did a whole lot of tests, but they couldn't find anything. And that's what it's been with heaps of people who've ended up with cardiac problems. He didn't have pericarditis or myocarditis, but there was something that had happened to his heart. My son ended up basically being bedridden for about 3 to 4 months, I think, where we'd ask him, you know, oh, can you help out with this? And he'd basically walk out of bed and then just be absolutely knackered. He could hardly even walk to the letterbox. He was just exhausted. So my son was 15 when he got the vaccine. He's 18 now. And yeah, so for the last, 3 years at school, it's just been a massive struggle because he missed so much. But he missed heaps of everything. My other son, who's a mad keen footballer, he was excluded from his football team because he wasn't double vaxxed or boosted or whatever the hell they wanted them to do. So yeah, it was hard. It was hard for our family, but I'd rather it be hard and be dead. There was grief around realising that I couldn't trust people that I thought I could. I never thought that drug companies were so dark and evil, for lack of a better way of putting it. I thought doctors would stand up for what's true and right and good, you know, the Hippocratic Oath and all that. And there were a few that did, and they were absolutely castigated by their own by their own governing body, you know. And to watch most doctors just fold like a flipping deck chair and go along with it and not even question anything, yeah, real grief and anger. And fear, actually. I spent probably a few months just thinking, man, I'm actually really afraid. I can't trust politicians. I can't trust doctors. It's hard with the ones that don't want to know. It's infuriating. Especially the ones that look at me like I'm mental. But as you know, and some of them stay silent. They don't call me any names or anything. Some do. Yeah, the whole thing it's made me incredibly cynical, untrusting, and angry. But I came to terms with it in the end. I'm a man of faith as well, so that really helped massively. Yeah, I can't say how, but it just did. I just got a sense of peace that whatever happens, people do bad things. They've been doing bad things forever. I don't have to play that game. And I'm free to stand my own ground, and whatever the consequences of that are, they are.